Hi everyone, welcome to the Legends and Lore show. Sorry, we had some little bit of technical hiccups, but this is the season 2, the episode 10, the season finale.
10.
Yeah, and with me, yeah, it's been 9 previous episodes, and with me as usual is
Mike, here again.
yes,
Who
yeah,
we have with us today, Anna?
yes, exactly. Today we have the one and only Christoph Nolan, the head of Greyhawk Online, and a whole bunch of other cool
Awesome.
stuff. Welcome so much to the show.
It's great to be here.
Hey,
I'm
Blake.
really glad to be on the show.
Yeah, we had to have some cool one for the final episode. And now we have, oh yes, we have Bavix and Nebbiolo and MRJNK. Thank you. Welcome so
Welcome to the
much.
show,
Yep.
everybody.
Oh, and we have Blake. Blake Ryan is here too. Blake Batman. Yep. Awesome.
Oh, great. It's
Yep.
awesome to see Blake, actually.
So,
I was just
yeah.
speaking to Blake just the other day after
Mhm.
tossing some text back and forth, and looks like he might be one of the new contributors for the next Earth Journal.
Oh,
Awesome.
that is awesome. So please tell us a little bit about all your all the cool things surrounding you and Greyhawk and stuff.
Yeah, what have you
Um,
been up to since Gary Con?
since GaryCon, good gracious, that's a couple of months already. I think I've made like 230 edits or something like that. So as you said, I am the lead admin and the site owner for Greyhawk Online. And Greyhawk Online is one of the oldest fan websites for the world of Greyhawk. And along with in the olden days, the days of yore, a lot of the websites had what they referred to as a web ring, which is not something that a lot of new internet folk are probably
No, it
familiar
kind of
with.
fell out of fashion for a
Yeah,
while
exactly.
ago.
But a
Yep.
long time ago, it used to be really fashionable
hmm
for several groups that were all of similar interests to make a hub together. And Greyhawk Online was one of those, along with Gord's Greyhawk and CannonFire.com and Melcot.com.
Melcott. I was going to say, I know Melcott's still on that ring. And
Yep.
And yeah, some of the sites still technically have that web ring
Yeah, maybe we
icon.
should
Uh,
revive it. We should put it on all our sites and be part of
no,
that ring again. That will no. Okay.
no, thank you.
but yeah, so I'm the lead admin and site owner of Greyhawk Online, and wasn't all that long ago, just last year, that the previous owner of it, who's a friend of mine, Isaac Wood, he was really big in the Living Greyhawk days back in early 2000s, early aughts. And after the end of the campaign, he just kind of stopped gaming and stuff. He wasn't real pleased with fourth edition and stuff, and so he just kind of fell off. And the website just slowly started, being less and less used. And he had a couple of others, where he concentrated on some other stuff for a little while. He also did the Theocracy, the Pale, which was his home Living Greyhawk region and stuff like that. And so eventually, after about 10 years, just kind of slowly fell off. But he still knew a lot of us. He still knew Alan Growy, which a lot of users probably know him as Grodog. And eventually, I happened to be browsing around on the web one day, and I was typing away, and for whatever random reason, I did a who is function where you can look up, the site registration and stuff. And I was bored and I was looking at who is, and so just randomly I was like, what's a website I know? I'll look one up, and did Greyhawk Online, and went, oh my god, Greyhawk Online's about to expire. And if yeah, I mean, some of you may know,
Pounce.
some of you, um, some of you may know from what happened to the EarthJournal.com, that a Japanese company snatched it up because they saw website traffic on it, and will not been able to recover EarthJournal.com for the same reason that it got snatched up by an advertising company. And they did not want
Suckers.
that to happen. They did not want that to happen with Greyhawk Online. And so I talked to Alan Growy, and Alan still had current contact information for Isaac, and And I offered to buy it directly from Isaac. And Isaac said, "No way, man, I'll just give it to you." And so we transferred the ownership and stuff like that. And I
Wow.
have undergone a complete renovation of the website. And at first I started doing the coding and stuff just on my own. And I've started to build up a team now where we have Greyhawk Online, and associated with it is the Greyhawk Wiki. And there are more and more stuff coming in to Greyhawk Online now, and we're having a lot of older website owners that want their stuff rehosted. They don't really want to do it, but they'd like to see it online again. And there's the Greyhawk Wiki, and there's and we're starting to do a lot of other things, like with Your Maps, for example. Just the other day, we announced that we had partnered with you for Your Maps, and we have the Zoom version on the website now. And,
there will be more stuff. I can say this summer there will be. I will release the Flanny's map in Atlas form, meaning in page form.
Right.
And so all those pages will be awesome if you can host them on Greyhawk Online as well. That will be fantastic. So,
absolutely. Well, and that's the biggest thing, is that, like, the more people we have that participate in just creating, and the motto for Greyhawk Online is creating and sharing for the world of Greyhawk. And the more people that create, the more people that share. You don't have to be super fans. You don't have to be professionals. You don't have to be anything. And everything on Greyhawk Online is completely fan generated. And so the more we create and share, with cartographers like you, or cartoonists, or other artists or authors or storytellers or any of it, the more people that share, the better and better the community becomes. And
Sweet.
whether it's on GHO or not, or anywhere, the biggest thing that we want to do at Greyhawk Online is that we want people to share, and we want to encourage them to do it in whatever way they come up with, or whatever way they
Super, super cool.
I don't think it's an exaggeration, but I think Greyhawk Online is already as big, if not bigger, than it used to be.
I think largely due to social media, that is probably a very true thing. Like in my analytics and stuff that I get in reports for the website, we have on average of about 1,250 average monthly users.
Nice.
We have on average about between 200 and 300 a week, and we average about 60 unique viewers a day. That's not really big, but it's very possible that because you have to remember, there's actually a post on Greyhawk Online when I very first started making a very public announcements and stuff like that. I did a lot of work on it before it went public and whatnot, but I took screenshots of what the page used to look like, and the thing I always say is that it looks like a page that was designed like back in the 90s, because it was designed back in the 90s. And it was basically it was a square that was about an inch or two big, that was a repeating pattern over the entire thing, and it made parchment texture. And it was just a link list is basically all it was, and you picked a link that you like, and you just clicked link after link, and it took you to inner page,
Well, it's before even the blog was kind of invented almost.
There was no such thing as a blog. And if a website did that kind of what we now call a blog, where they make daily posts, it was a new page for every single post, and you just had a list of links that said January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. That was as close as you come to what we call a blog now.
So we have welcome Casey is in chat.
Oh, hey. Draco.
Scrolling banners.
Yep.
My comic is one of those offenders. I know you want it updated, but I wrote it all by hand, HTML, but now it's like
and that's actually one of the another thing that a lot of the viewers probably may not know, is that a lot of the older stuff like Grodog's Greyhawk from Alan Grohe is actually hosted at Greyhawk Online, and that's part of what Greyhawk Online is. The original World of Greyhawk comic was sponsored on Greyhawk Online. And so like all of, even though you've moved to Blogspot and stuff like that now, all of the original stuff is all still on, Greyhawk Online, and you can actually still see it in its original form.
Yeah, I had migrated over to Melcot only because when Greyhawk Online had that downturn,
that decade where it disappeared.
I couldn't get into it anymore, so I had to put myself somewhere.
Yeah. So that's So what about the wiki part? I'm really interested. So is it up and running and people can come online and
very much so. Very much so. One of the things that we have to send a shout out to Pluffett Smedger when he comes in. When Gary Holian, he ran. He decided. I mean, I don't know, 2 decades ago or something like that, to run. I think the very first World of Greyhawk fan site, canonfire.com, and his site was the repository of the Greyhawk wiki for years and years and years and years and years. And unfortunately, there were hacking attacks and there were spammers and stuff like that, and so he kind of had to shut it down for a little while. And not have new registrations and stuff like that. And it got so bad that he ended up having to have mirror sites where a couple of other administrators did a mirror for him just so people could use it again. And last year the second mirror in a row had gone down, and the administrator that ran it just disappeared, and most of us have no idea what happened to him or anything. But after that, I had been talking to Gary for quite some time, and I actually briefly talked about him to actually sharing a database, and that gets very, very technically complicated and whatnot. And so what we just ended up deciding to do is that he got the wiki up and running again briefly, and not briefly. He got it. It briefly took him, it only took him a brief time, there we go, to get it back up and running. And he talked to me about like updating the software and stuff like that. And I helped him with figuring out that, which version to use and stuff like that to update his software. And he got it updated and whatnot. And what then that allowed me to do is, since he got it up for us, then we were able to import all of the wiki stuff. And so all of the content that everybody has known for years, that, you can find it and stuff like that, and then it's on the wiki, all of that has now been imported. And there's been, I want to say there's been over 800 new articles since then.
Oh, that's fantastic. Whoa. Yeah, it's really starting to be the gem of Greyhawk knowledge. I'm starting to use it daily. It's fantastic.
Well, and it's really surprising to me how over the years, like, we took for granted what we had, and we never, like you were saying a little while ago, the community was so much smaller back in the 90s, and now with the help of social media, we put a link out there and just everybody sees it, immediately. Yeah. Like I tweeted a thing a couple of days ago asking somebody for an article, and it got 1,000 impressions within 48 hours. And I mean, that just baffles me. But so the thing back then, the community was so much smaller. And not that there weren't as many fans, it's just that there were such a small group that connected and made a community. There were so many people out there that didn't know about the websites and that they didn't know about all the stuff out there. And nowadays, it's a really big deal to have a community of fans. And so the things we took for granted back then was that we all knew what the stuff was. So if somebody said the Adri Forest, we didn't have to look up the Adri Forest. We know about the Adri Forest.
Yep.
And even like right now, like you can go look up, I don't know, like the Blimu Hills or something like that. And like some of the more obscure ones, are not on the wiki. And so it's hard, like it's hard to filter through all the stuff. And like one day I'll just stumble on one and go, what do you mean Robilar's not on the wiki?
Yeah, then you have to sit down and write that article real quick, or at least
exactly
start it, so people
exactly.
can, yeah. So what do people, how do you get in, and if I want to go in and edit something, is it possible to just create a user account, or how does that work?
One of the founding things that I wanted to do is, much like Wikipedia, we can have open edits. And if you just go to the wiki, there will be an edit button there. And if you find a page that has inaccurate information or needs more information or just has friggin' typos, all you have to do is click the edit button and you can edit. And for those people who are interested in actually being wiki editors, you can register. And there's a little button just like any other website that says log in, and or log in or register, and you just click it, and it asks for your username and a password and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's super easy. There's no you don't have to like wait for a response or get an email confirmation or whatever. You just have to have a secure email and and a secure password or whatever, and you just put that stuff in. But just the other day, as a matter of fact, I tweeted a thing where somebody had found a page apparently where I had made typos, and so they edited the page for me, and it was an anonymous user. And like as an administrator, all I see is an IP address, like 8 digits or whatever it is. Yeah. And I actually if you click edit and you're not logged in, you can still edit it. And the downside of that is that it's possible people could vandalize it.
Then you have to go in and reset it from a previous version.
Exactly. And as an administrator, and those who are who work on the wiki with me or for me or whatever, that kind of stuff, they patrol the pages, I patrol the pages, and and when matter of fact, I think it was Blake put up a couple of articles on cities that he had done articles on. And I had tweeted to him and said we would really love to see this on the wiki, and he was like, I don't really know much about it. I don't know anything about wiki coding. And I was like, that's the great thing. If you don't know that, that's fine, because that's part of our job. And if you put the stuff up and it's not formatted, we will format it for you. And so that's true for any user, is that if anybody wants to contribute the text of an article, just go in there and type stuff, and not copy paste stuff, but type stuff, write it originally. Even if you're looking at a source, just type it in your own words or whatever. And then one of us will come behind you and format it. And that's what we did for Blake just the other day, is just, but when we had the anonymous user the other day correcting my typos, I actually tweeted, and I kind of did big fancy lettering, and I did like a screen capture of the edits where I had like left off the S in United States, and I put a goofy symbol there instead. I took a screen cap of it, and it says, user 92.9 whatever blah 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 IP address, and I said, we love you whoever you are.
That's great. Yep. But
so anybody can edit it, and we actually encourage that, because we want to see people who are actively engaged in Greyhawk and straightening things out. Oh, there's Blake just said Neural and Marner are the two cities that he wrote.
Awesome. Yep. It's so good to see Greyhawk Online flourishing back again, and we have a home for the wiki and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's great.
Well, and one of the other things about it is that it continually reinforces, not only does it make it easier for the community to find information, like when Saltmarsh comes out, there's going to be, the Ghost of Saltmarsh, when that comes out, next month, there's going to be people who want to look up those those locations, and look up references or whatever, to a name or something. And it reinforces it because it just brings it back to, where can people find this information? And so Greyhawk Online, especially, and specifically the wiki, are the important thing about it is that the more people use it, the more people are going to use it, and the more people that edit it, the more people that contribute to it. It means that there's going to be more and more information there, and there's going to be more and more users there, and even if they're not registered, I mean, you don't have to log in to use a wiki, just like Wikipedia, and the more people use it, the more people edit it, the more people will want to edit it.
Yeah.
And that's why we encourage people so much, because it goes back to the core principle of Greyhawk Online. It's creating and sharing for the world of Greyhawk.
So I was just looking at the wiki a second ago, and I looked at all on the wiki, and I saw that I made a couple edits to that back in 2007.
Nice.
That's probably the extent of my wiki contribution, though.
Yeah, well, and see, that's how it happens. Is that like you are known for liking Ul, and Ul is a fan favorite for you, and so when you find something that you want to go look up, and here it is, whatever. I mean, what date did you say it was?
2007.
Yeah, so 12 years ago, and you didn't even remember that. But it's been such a continuous favorite of yours that the first thing you go back to and you go, oh, look, I wrote some of that.
Yeah. But I referenced.
Am I able to drop a link in the chat?
That should work. Yep. Worst case scenario, drop it in Discord, and we can drop it in there if. But I think you should be.
Let's see. I'll give folks a
give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So there's a link for the wiki.
Oops.
And
no, we just got 3.
Not working.
Okay, so post it in Discord, and I'll see if I can post it. Hopefully, I can post it.
Did it give you all the message that it
and have a moderator status too?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have that, so we'll see here.
Who should I post it to? You, Anna? And
yeah, you can post it to me, and I'll try it and see if it works. I might not have that's the problem, because it's Shane's channel and we're just using it, so to speak. So we'll see here. So what I'll do is that I copy link, and we'll see if we can post it here. Yes, it worked. Yep.
There we go. The wiki.
Yep.
Ah, there it is. Now I just saw it pop up.
Yep.
So yeah, there is a tiny bit of a delay.
Yep.
Awesome.
So when you're not doing Greyhawk Online and administering it, I know you're doing a lot of cool art and stuff. So any cool art projects and stuff going on Greyhawk?
Well, I think probably more than anything, professionally, I'm a homemaker, so I do a lot of dishes and taking care of the cats and things. But professionally, I am actually a freelance illustrator. And I've done a fair amount of work in the gaming industry. I've been published in some third-party projects. I've been published. I actually have been involved in 3 Kickstarters that either didn't get to the what do they call them?
Funded level or something like that?
No, they got funded, but they just didn't get to the, what do they call it?
The stretch goal that involved your art or something, or
Yeah, so I've been asked on 3 separate occasions to do like bonus art, if they get to the next tier. What do they call them?
Stretch goals.
Stretch goals.
There you go, stretch goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they never seem to get to the stretch goal where I'm involved. So I'm beginning to think that's kind of a curse. But
had you done art before they got the stretch goal, or then you commission?
Well, yeah, that's usually the thing, is that they already have like a core amount of art that they're already having done, and then they want more cool art, and so they once they can, and I hate to say this, but once they can afford a little bit more of an art budget where they can afford because a lot of times there'll be, it'll be an artist, an author, and an editor who get together on a project, and they'll do, the art and editing and writing themselves, and or they'll have a very small artist where they can get some black and whites or whatever.
Yeah.
But but I have been published in some Pathfinder books, not Pathfinder by Paizo, but Pathfinder supplements from third-party companies like Mythic Studios and or Legendary Games, and I've actually been doing. Mike, I don't know if you remember or not, but back in, I guess it would have been about, I guess it'd been about 12 years ago now or so, when I first came to, when I first came to the into the community. One of the very first things that ever happened was I stumbled into Grey Talk, and I posted the Races of Orth, the usual.
That was a good one. That was a great one.
The Usual Suspects was.
Is that available on Greyhawk Online now, or on your?
It actually is.
Okay.
Ironically, when we did the seminar for GaryCon, that was, I put up a sample artwork just to set up the page, and that was so at Greyhawk Online /seminar. If you scroll down, the Races of Orth is all the way down there at the bottom. I think I just heard my cat doing something. Yeah. We have the studio door closed. This is actually, speaking of my art, this is actually my art studio right behind me. This I do both traditional and digital art, and actually we ought to. Why don't I give you a link to my my website, and
there you go. The portfolio.
Yep.
Yeah, and that way we can post that. It's W. Christoph Nolan, and it's daportfolio.com, and I do both traditional and digital art. I found in this day and age that it's a whole lot easier to do digital art, and it didn't used to be. Anna, you probably remember back in about 2009 when I got my very first digital.
Yeah, you said and used Corel Painter and started learning to paint digitally.
A very steep learning curve.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things about it is that, like, for somebody who's never done it before and they just come to art whole new, they can pick up like Photoshop, and their brain doesn't have a concept of how different that is. And a lot of traditional artists have a disconnect between holding a pencil and then trying to do something on a screen. And so Corel Painter is specifically designed. I mean, anybody can pick it up, but it's much more true to traditional media. And if you paint with watercolor, the watercolor actually drips down your monitor just like real water would.
And you have those functions in Photoshop too, but they're hidden. You have to find them and you have to tweak them and stuff. In Corel Painter, it starts by having them the natural way, and then you can tweak them into digital weirdos if you want to.
And honestly, Corel Painter actually saves in PSD files now, and so like it's because that's become an industry standard. Like you can go from one to the other if you want. Some of the effects don't transfer back and forth, but you can still open them and work on them and do everything. And so I prefer Corel Painter, but a lot of people work in Photoshop or even GIMP or anything nowadays. But when I do traditional art, it's right back there on the table that is now covered with all kinds of pencils and junk and everything else. I don't have any traditional art going right now, but I actually, speaking of the Greyhawk Wiki, one of the things that I've started doing is I've actually started doing a couple of I've started doing layout sketches for a project that I actually mentioned to Todd Kendrick of D&D Beyond, and what's the other one he does? Heroes of the Veil, I think, on the D panel. He's the DM, but he works with Adam, whatever his name is.
Coble?
No, not it's Adam I can't remember his last name. But at any rate, he's one of the folks that was at GaryCon, and he works with D&D Beyond, and is a really great guy. Great big, huge, tall guy, kind of barrel-chested and stuff. But he has a little square goatee, and he's bald as can be, and he would make a fantastic Mordenkainen.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I actually talked to him at GaryCon, and I asked him, I said, I know you get this a lot, but and he's a fan of Greyhawk. He played Greyhawk very early on and whatnot. And I asked him, I said, what would you think if I wanted to use you as a photo reference for doing an illustration of?
Here, hold this crystal ball and stare into it.
Yeah.
But he said, yeah. And the reason I asked him that is because I'm starting to do layout sketches because I want to do a series for the Circle of Eight. And what I want to do with that is I want to do people who are at Wizards of the Coast, at D&D Beyond, are really notable in the community or whatever, and I want to use them as models for the Circle of Eight and make each one of them find have Adam Branford be Autoluke, or have Satine Phoenix be Jalarzi, or
That's a clever idea.
I would just love to do that. And so I actually recently started doing some layout sketches for those. And what I ultimately would intend with that is that I would take those and then I would put that art in the wiki and use there's I've already done I have some digital files that I have just my own illustrations for fun that aren't professional projects or anything, but I'm considering starting to take some of the art that I do and put it in the wiki. And that's true of any Greyhawk fan. If they want to do something that draws from canon, so that it's not just some wild piece of artwork that has nothing to do with Greyhawk or whatever, but they can talk to us and we can give them space. Like JB Garrison is one that we featured recently. He was in the Earth Journal number 28, and he now has a site or a page on Greyhawk Online. It's JB Garrison Art. It's greyhawkonline.com/JB Garrison Art. Yep. And so those people who do art that is Greyhawk theme or Greyhawk related or whatever, it's creating and sharing for the world of Greyhawk. And so any kind of fandom that relates in some way to Greyhawk, we are always more than happy to involve the fans in that and get people to to contribute in whatever way they can. And for some, we actually had at GaryCon, when we did the seminar, the Celebrating Greyhawk Fandom Renaissance seminar panel, which we were all at, one of the fans live tweeted us and took a picture of us and and said that they were at the panel and whatnot, and then afterward approached me and said that she really was interested in helping edit. And so she's actually writing a little bit for the Earth Journal for the issue that's coming out next month.
Nice.
And she's also going to be helping me edit all of the articles that are coming out for the Earth Journal 29, which is due next month.
I like to see new faces or names.
Yep. Yeah. No.
Wait. Okay, so I have a question.
Yes. Yep.
So we shared the link. And the first thing Blake said was the Rock carrying a camel.
Yeah.
And he asked if the camel was being carried off to Ull. Actually, Blake, I have no idea where that camel is going, but going back to a nest somewhere, and he's going to be eaten, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then he said, "This is the Avengers of Earth." I'm guessing I don't know if that was in relation to
The Circle of
the
8 likenesses.
Yeah. And then
um,
there's a T-shirt. Yeah.
oh, and there's still a few of them floating around with the old TSR
I would
stuff.
love to see a picture of what that looks like, Bayvix.
Yes,
Yeah,
that will be
that
awesome.
would
Yeah.
be incredibly cool to see
Yep.
a picture of what was on the T-shirt.
Yep. And now you mentioned several times, and maybe we have mentioned it too, Earth Journal. What's the that's been around as a
Oh,
fan scene for well over a decade, I think.
Way before I got
well
in.
Yeah.
over 2 decades
Yeah.
actually.
So
It's
yeah,
22 years. Um,
so please tell the audience a little bit more about it, and also what's the plans in the future, because now I know you were involved in the kind of latest development, latest chapter in the Earth Journal story.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So, way back to the beginning, back in the 90s, um, fanzines were a really big thing. And especially before the internet really took off in the late 80s and early 90s, there would be fan clubs, or there would be associations, or there would be whatever, or just communities, and they would make little they would, like, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper kind of thing, folded in half, so like a little booklet. And they would mail these little fanzines around just all over the place, and whether it was a Star Trek Klingon fan club, or it was a bowling fan club, or it was anything else. And they used to make these fanzines. And so when the internet started to become popular and PDFs were a thing, Eric Mona, who has been known around the Greyhawk community as Iquander for years and years, at least 24 years that I know of. I knew Eric back on the AOL pages when TSR, the original owner of D&D, had AOL folders. I knew Eric back then, and now of course he's the publisher of Pathfinder RPG.
Yeah,
and I actually I get to talk to Eric sometimes still, and I saw him at PAX Unplugged just a few months ago, and we talked and stuff like that. But anyway, he was the original editor of the Earth Journal, and it was just a black and white text fanzine, just like the old print fanzines had been. Just a newsletter almost, with just a collection of some things that fans had written. And over the years, as PDFs developed and we got better editors, like graphics editors, not people that were editing, but we got better graphics and editing and better software. And we stopped using WordPerfect and we started using Microsoft Word. The PDFs just got better and better, and so now it is a full color, highly rendered, very filled fanzine, and it's let me throw out another link for you. It's actually available at greyhawkonline.com/earthjournal.
We have the latest that was handed out at GaryCon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the most recent issue of it was Earth Journal 28. And it's there we go. There's a there's a copy of it.
Yep.
And this was the very first time that it was ever in print, and that's the biggest thing. That's the kind of ironic difference now, is that it's been around for 24 years, and it's had its roots in the old fanzines of the 80s and early 90s, which were always in print. But when the Earth Journal began, it was only in PDFs, and so it's distributed freely around the internet and whatnot. And so now, going back to its original roots, this is the very first time it's ever been in print, and there was only a limited edition of 100. And so I'm sure there are people that will probably ask, where can I get one of those? Unfortunately, that particular edition, you can't, but we do have plans every year at GaryCon now to print a single issue of the Earth Journal. And hopefully, if our production schedule really keeps up and we do what we want, and the staff is able to get content. That's a really big thing. Is that this just like Greyhawk Online, they're kind of intrinsically tied now. Greyhawk Online originally sponsored when Eric, and they used to call themselves the Council of Greyhawk, and it very much like it is now. It's just a group of fans that got together and they made a fanzine. They made the Earth Journal, and it was kind of just governed by a popular opinion, basically. And they just all got together and they say, hey, what did you think about this? Hey, what did you think about that? Hey, let's put this one in. Hey, let's have this person write that, whatever. And a lot of it back then wasn't written specifically necessarily for just the Earth Journal. And it was often culled from Grey Talk or the AOL folders or whatever, and people would start topics, and then somebody would say, hey, take that and write a whole thing for it, and so now it's kind of become the same thing. Eventually Greyhawk Online sponsored the Earth Journal, and Isaac Haywood provided web space for it and stuff like that, and eventually, again, Greyhawk Online became sort of inactive for quite a few years. But now, with the renovation of Greyhawk Online, so too comes the renovation of the Greyhawk Journal, or I'm sorry, the Earth Journal, and a lot of it we have not really had the opportunity because the schedule is going so fast right now since GaryCon. Our full plan for it is that what we want to do is we want to have authors write for Greyhawk Online, and then as fans come and read Greyhawk Online, they will leave comments, they'll make suggestions, they'll say, here's a minor lore error that you made. Hey, you may have missed this part. I was discussing with an author just earlier today. They had a NPC they had written, and one of the very obscure facts about Greyhawk is the calendar, and that full moons always fall on Wednesdays, which are God's Day, and so full moons are always on God's Day. And they had said this character was born under auspicious signs on the first day of the year under 2 full moons. And I said, oh, well, for that event that you want to happen, it's not on the first of the year. It's actually on the 4th of Need Fest, I think, or Rich Fest. Anyway, it was Midsummer's Eve, so I guess the 4th of Rich Fest. And it's that kind of detail. So ideally, if somebody will write for GHO, and it'll be put up on Greyhawk Online, and then we'll get feedback and comments and stuff from fans, and they'll say, hey, here are some really interesting things that you could do to tweak this article a little bit. And then after that's been there for a month or 2 or whatever, then we'll take it, and the author will be able to rewrite it or do anything they want or not, or don't want, if they don't want to change anything. And then we'll collect them in the Earth Journal. And so it'll be almost like a like bi-monthly collection or a seasonal collection, every 90 days or every 60 days or something like that. Yeah. And so one of the old problems with the Earth Journal is that in kind of the decline of the of Greyhawk Online for a few years, we wouldn't see one for 6 months, or we wouldn't see one for 12 months, or an issue wouldn't come out for a year and a half or 2 years. And so people would just not see content. And when especially nowadays, where content creation is you live or die on content creation on the internet. And so when fans don't see stuff coming out, imagine if you had a website. I mean, like, Mike, imagine, if your blog, or, Anna, if your, cartography website, imagine if you didn't have anything new on it for a year and a half, what would happen?
Oh.
I feel it's terrible because I haven't put a post there in like 2 weeks, and I feel terrible because I have like 10 different things I'm working on that I need to put there that is not finished yet. So I have at least 10 blog posts in the making, but right now I'm so damn busy with other stuff.
I want to address Guntaka. He said, let Lynn, I'm guessing he's referring to Lynn Lakofka, let Lynn write for it. I would love to have Lynn We can't see the link. Damn it, one of us. Oh,
Yeah, no one has sent it to me.
there's a link for the Earth Journal, I think, Anna.
Yeah,
that
Bavix, you need to send us that link so we can put it in the chat.
Yeah, they're saying they haven't seen the link. So, let's see. Oh! Now I finally, Blake. I am so sorry I didn't get the joke. This is going back like 10 minutes ago. When he said the Avengers of Earth, he said when pitching it to people is we're getting everybody together in a group.
Right.
we're putting together the Avengers. But yeah, so the Earth Journal now. The idea is that we have to have constant content creation, and so like if there's a new article like every single week, and it's a good, very long fleshed out article and stuff that people can read every week, and then every couple of months we can find the best ones or whatever and publish them in the Earth Journal and make like a collection so that because honestly, we know there are going to be people that don't necessarily read Greyhawk Online every day, but when a new Earth Journal comes out in the Greyhawk community, that's fairly big news.
Yep.
And they get passed around really, really quickly. And like we have already had, I mean, literally hundreds of downloads of Earth Journal 28. And especially Rick Miller, who is the previous editor-in-chief, who actually helped me a little bit on Earth Journal 28. I really think we don't really know how the staff is all going to get ironed out because we're still developing and stuff. But what I really want to see Rick do is to edit, but I really want him to write. And that was the big thing in the old ones, is that he couldn't get the content creation because back then it was so much harder to find authors. And now, especially with social media and stuff, we can really just really get in touch with authors a whole lot easier, especially when they realize that being a fan author is great, and so now we can get content creation a whole lot more, and that will allow him to do the things he really enjoyed, which is writing, and he's still going to help out doing editing and whatnot too. But the biggest thing is that like right now we are on such a fast schedule coming off of GaryCon that we're turning around, and about 8 weeks later there's a brand new issue of another Earth Journal already coming out. And the big thing about it is that next year, this time next year, is going to be our 25th anniversary. And so so May of next year is going to be 25 years since Eric Mona first started it. And it's a fantastic magazine.
Then you have to get him to write a kind of a Jubilee little article or just a flashback.
I am not going to say it in this interview or on this show, but I'm actually going to PaizoCon next month, which I go most every year because that's where I get some of my professional illustrative commercial work. I end up getting through PaizoCon and stuff, and I actually played Pathfinder for years. So although I play 5th edition now, but I actually have something for Eric that is kind of a surprise. I have 2 things for him actually, and so when I go to PaizoCon next month, I've got a couple of things for him. And when I saw him at PAX Unplugged, I got to sit down with him, and I and my whole gaming crew went up. But I kind of split off for a little bit, and I got to sit down with Eric right as they were kind of ending up all of the play tests they were doing that one day, because they were launching Pathfinder 2.0, and he was just tired and haggard from a day of PAX. But I got to sit down with him and talk and ask, just how he'd been, and hang out with him and chit chat for a little bit. And I said, we would really like to see Ike wander around, Greyhawk Online or something. And he said, well, I don't know, that's it's not, it's not something I really have the opportunity to do much anymore. And he said, well, I'll at least stop by. I'll at least come look at it and see how it's going and whatnot. And so what I'm hoping to do is at least get him to write an editorial.
Just
for
a little flashback or something. That would be kind of cool. Yep.
I mean, because the 25th anniversary is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, 25 years later, he thought he was founding just a little bitty fanzine, that a few people were going to see, and now, I'm literally headed toward thousands of downloads each month. Oh.
Awesome.
My coffee warmer is off. My coffee's cold.
Yep, that's so cool. So now I need to ask Mike a little bit. What kind of cool project are you up to, or anything new on the blog front here? Yeah.
Well, right now I've just been trying to keep up. I haven't been doing a whole lot of anything. I've just been mainly keeping up with Blake's work and any other new developments I've seen online. I would like to say I'm glad the work journal is back and hosted properly, because now I've been able to update some of my article links on the blog.
Oh, right, yeah.
For my content there that I'd put out of commission.
Well, and especially the link that did we share the link?
To
the Orth Journal?
Not yet.
No, I'll post it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll post it in a second here.
Yeah,
I should have looked at the Discord. I didn't do that. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I should have made a clearer point of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for mentioning that, Mike. That there's actually a searchable database there now, and all of them are in a single location. And so, like, all of your work and stuff, and anybody's work that's in it, can be found a whole lot easier. So, what are some of I mean, I could run through the index, but what are some of the things that you've written for the Earth Journal in the past?
That's interesting. Let's see. I did a couple collaborative things. I did one with Rick Miller on the Seer of Ernst. I'd have to look at my list. But as to myself, I did an All Gazetteer, which was more or less just compiled information from all my Cannon Fire articles that I put into the format of at the time, a 3rd edition, I think.
Well, that's one of the really big things. That's one of the really big things about the Orth Journal is compiling information in a place where people can find it. And I mean, we all know that we can go look up the Renee if we want, but the information about the Renee is so scattered and so, it's not difficult to find if you have all the sources, and if you don't have all the sources, an article that's all about the Renee is a really big deal, and the same, or the Sulis, or, a nation, Kiel and Ul, anything. And so that's actually a really big deal. And that's the kind of reason that we want to do this similar sort of thing going forward now, is that we want to make kind of compilations even, find a single topic and, just flesh out that whole topic.
I contributed some art. There was a few OJs that I did where I would do a Greyhawk, full-page Greyhawk comic that kind of had something to do with the articles that were in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the fun things that I always like when I see that you do, is when you do topical artwork, and the Cannon Fire Facebook group has been publishing your stuff in syndication lately. And,
yeah.
I love when something came up in if they're reposting something from 2006, looking back and going, oh, he's making a joke about blah, because whatever topical stuff was going on that month. When you drew your comic, you would make a joke about it in the Greyhawk comics.
Yeah, it's crazy how obscure that stuff is.
Yeah. I have 2 things published in the Earth Journal over the years. One is that my map is part of the part of the front
Front
picture.
and center,
Yeah,
yeah.
the front and back is part of the background. I was part of what I made. And back in, I looking at my email. The very oldest email that I saved in my inbox is from 2005, and that's Mike. You and me, we
Oh.
went back and forth. You wrote something about all, and I made a special version of my map for you,
Yeah.
and that was back in
Oh,
2005. Those
wow.
are the two things that I've contributed into Earth Journal.
That's
Is the
kind of
yeah
awesome.
yeah back in 2005 I made a special version because I was working on the old part, and we had emailed back and forth back then, and Mike, you wrote something and put it in Earth Journal, and my map was part of it, and that was
Mm.
the only time up until the very latest issue that I've been published in Earth Journal, which is kind of, yeah, it's kind of
Well,
fun.
and that is that's why an Earth Journal index is so important, and an Earth Journal database is so important.
Yeah.
Is because, and like what I eventually want to do with greyhawkonline.com/Earth Journal is, like, right now you can search by like author name or article title, and like one of the important things to do as an author is when you make a title is you want to hit certain keywords in that title so that people know what it's really about,
Yeah.
and it's an unfortunate thing when
Can you?
and when an author wants to call their article a murder mystery,
Yeah,
it's like
and
that
then doesn't. Yeah.
tells you nothing.
Yeah, but can you
But
tag
so
it? Can you tag it when you put it in there? Then you can hopefully give it tags so you can search everything.
exactly.
You tag if it's something about Rennie, then you can tag it Rennie
Right.
and or
And so
something.
eventually, what I eventually want to be able to do is expand the code for those tables so that the code searches not just for keywords in certain blocks, but it will actually search all the code. And so, and when it
Yeah.
gives a result, it doesn't actually give you that word, it just shows you the line on which that result comes
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah.
so when I reformat the tables, and when you search the database and it searches the code, and it, like, if I have tags hidden in the code that you can't see, if you search for Rennie and I have tagged each one of those articles with the word Rennie, even if the word Rennie is not in the title.
Yeah.
So hopefully eventually the database on that page will be
Yeah.
updated, get
All
some
that.
more functionality and
Yeah.
stuff. But one of the important things right now is not only is it mostly searchable, but more importantly than that, it has all of them in an index.
Yeah.
So you can go down a list and look at every single Earth Journal in one place and find them in one place, because that's been one of the hard things, is that the first 18 were archived over here, the next 5 were archived over here, and that I'm aware of, I don't think they were all previously downloadable from a single location until now.
Yeah.
And certainly not with a searchable database there. We actually have a
Yeah.
Gary's here, just so you know.
There
Yep.
he is.
Yep. Awesome.
I
Welcome,
mentioned-
Gary. Yeah.
I mentioned Renee, and
Yep.
that's a
Mhm.
typical reaction.
Yep.
From
Oh, that's perfect. Yep.
So I want to address Babix of Greyhawks had a question. He said, so if Greyhawk Adventures were published as fan contributions on Greyhawk Online, could anyone run them at conventions as fan adventures at conventions? And if so,
Good question.
what could this mean? And if so, I lost
I
my
don't
mind.
know.
What
And
could
if
this
so,
mean for?
what could this mean for Greyhawk Reborn?
Yeah.
So yes, as long as the convention directors or the gaming directors at a convention or whatever, as long as they allow fan written content, then yes, they absolutely could. Because one of the things about the Earth Journal is that it's fan driven, so it's by the fans, of the fans, for the fans. And all of the content is published under a Creative Commons license. And it's specifically the one that denotes no commercial reproduction.
Mhm.
And so what that means is that none of the content in it can ever be produced commercially, which means that it always has to stay fan content.
Mhm.
And so when the authors, I haven't been real great about this so far. I've only had a couple of the authors sign them, but I actually have to go back for Earth Journal 28 and get all the authors to sign them, and going forward in 29 and 30, is to have a release signed by the author saying, that Greyhawk Online can publish their stuff, but also that it's published under a Creative Commons license. And so once it's in the magazine or once it's on Greyhawk Online, it will always be fan content. Because it will always be under Creative Commons. And so as long as that convention allows that, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this too, but what that could mean for Greyhawk Reborn, I don't really think that it would impact Greyhawk Reborn or adversely affect them in any way, because right now, any content that we add to the community is only going to make the community better. Because
Right.
nobody is going to say, hey, we're not going to run Greyhawk Reborn because we're running this other content. And the thing about Greyhawk Reborn is that it's a specific organization and you have to play in their, purview kind of thing. So in stuff they organize, game days that they report, stuff that they've written. And so they have official adventures for Greyhawk Reborn. It's not just, people bring fan content and run it. They actually publish, just like the old Living Greyhawk did, they actually publish their own adventures. So I don't really see that anybody would, choose to not run Greyhawk Reborn in order to run, whatever. Actually, we don't have any adventures published on Greyhawk Online right now. But hey, if there are any authors out there who happen to, you know what? I take that back. I'm a dumbhead. The Oliver Brothers.
That's right.
They just started hosting with us. And the Oliver Brothers wrote the Great Flanness River Adventure, and it's an entire campaign. So if somebody wanted to run that, which is at Greyhawk Online /River Adventure, if somebody wanted to run that and a convention wanted to host it, the Oliver Brothers would number one be thrilled because they would love to see their stuff run like that. But I don't think anybody would ever say, let's run the Oliver Brothers adventure instead of Greyhawk Reborn. So I think it will only add to the community.
Yeah, we have a
So
good
I hope
good
that
question
helps.
from Gary P.S. Medger, Gary here. What does that mean if elements of the work needs to be used in future DM Guilds publication? That's an interesting. That's actually that was why I switched. I used the by NC, the Creatives Commons by NC, meaning you're allowed to make derivative and stuff for non-commercial purposes.
Yeah.
I actually added the SA license because I wanted, and that's a little bit to be share alike, because I didn't want my stuff to end up on the DM's Guild without my permission, so to speak. So when they open it up, I wanted to if they want to sell it, then I want to make sure that someone can make a version of my map and spread it like wildfire, as long as they spread it under the same license.
Yeah, and so to be a little bit more specific, number one, thank you, Gary, for asking that. That's a really big deal. Like, if somebody used similar plot points or whatever, but if they took anything directly from content that it's kind of like a wiki. You can restate things from an official source in a wiki, but you can't just block quote an entire page. And so, like, if it came from something that they took from Greyhawk Online, that's not really something they should do, because the DM's Guild is a commercial source. Even if it's fans writing it, they're still making money from it. Ideally, we would not have. But one of the great things is all they have to do is contact the content creator and say, hey, can I use this for my DM's Guild stuff?
Exactly. That's the same thing. That's all I require, so to speak. Is that it was like Casey was a perfect example. He wanted to use part of my maps in a commercial product he was going to sell, and he contacted me, and we kind of worked out a deal, and no money involved, and it was perfect. I just loved it.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to have that dialogue back and forth, and if it's something I like, then I've given a couple of different people access and say they could actually use my maps in a commercial product, and without me being compensated. I wanted credits, of course, and got it. So that's it. So
actually I want to go back just a little bit, a few I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and Aldraco mentioned, Casey Brown mentioned that he had almost published his Bandit Kingdoms unofficial campaign guide under via the Earth Journal. And back then it was very difficult, especially like Casey said, because the production schedule was sometimes 6 months to a year and a half apart, and that made it very difficult.
When it never came out.
But the first, I want to say, Altraco, Casey, we would love to see you. There you go. You have two of them. I have one myself.
I have one sitting here. I bought the physical copy one and a PDF. Yep.
I would, if you consider writing anything else, just that's more like the Morgenstahler article that you put. We would love to see you put even just any kind of fun little stuff on Greyhawk Online or the Earth Journal, and you never know. Like if you put anything on Greyhawk Online, by all means, like cite it and reference it to your book, and that would definitely be really neat to see people finding your book through Greyhawk Online. We would love to see you as an author.
Yeah. We have one question from Gary Yan. Can you commercialize it yourself without issues? That's a really good question, because from what I've seen, it commercialize your fan creations. I think it's a question, but when you see in the Greyhawk fan community, there seems to be two ways forward, so to speak. One is the way that I've chosen, and a lot of with me, meaning we play by Wizard of the Coast fan creation rules, meaning you give it away. And you don't commercialize it, so to speak. You don't sell it or anything. You give it away for free, and you put the logo, so to speak, on their text saying that you're not affiliated with Wizards, etc. Blah blah. And so you either play by the fan creation rules that Wizard of the Coast have, that are actually very, very fan friendly these days. I'm impressed. They're really fan friendly. And the other way, the other way is go to
Wizards fan policy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super liberal.
Yeah, it's actually very great policy. I must really credit them for doing really good. The other way around is to do like Castle Entertainment with the Cardinal Lysing do. You file off the serial numbers, meaning you take off all the actual references. You change names and etc. etc. And Casey did that with the latest adventure that Pathfinder adventure that was set in like a parallel version to Greyhawk, so to speak, that matches Greyhawk.
Oh, right, because he went back and actually published.
Yeah. So those are the two obvious ways that a lot of different ones you can take. You can file off the serial numbers and then publish it, or sell it, or you can give it away for free. And use under fan creation rules. And also under fan creation rules, you can actually subsidize your existence using Patreon or some donation stuff. So yeah.
Got a fan, Anna.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Welcome to the show. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I want to rewind the conversation about 20 minutes because I was having trouble putting up the link for Bavix's T-shirt.
Oh, cool.
Try to put it again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So now I understand Gary's question. Peacemaker's question.
Shirts like this all the time, because that shirt is awesome.
Oh yes, that I've seen that one. I've seen that one on conventions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's see. Now I'm going to take a look at it.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, did you do the art for it, or the layout, or you make the shirts? I mean, what?
Wow.
Must be the thing on the back with the
awesome.
different. Yeah.
That is an incredible. I love the artwork there, and like I can easily identify, which one's Bigby and which one's Otto, which one's Warren Starcoat with his funny hat.
Yeah.
So I think I understand Gary's question a little bit more now.
Okay. Yep.
He said, if say, for example, hopefully Wizards will eventually open up Greyhawk on the DMs Guild, and we can publish Greyhawk content on the DMs Guild, can they incorporate their own freely, like, open source published material into the
it's not open source anymore.
content that they put on the DMs Guild. And so yes, the answer to that is actually it's part of the reason why I'm having authors sign a release. And what the release is for is the only thing that it allows Greyhawk Online or the Earth Journal to do is to display, reproduce, and distribute. And what that means is that Greyhawk Online doesn't own anything. It all stays with the original author as the owner of that intellectual property. And so that author then, if they want to take their own work and put it on another website or put it on a forum or put it on Facebook or put it on, or like Gary's suggesting, they can take their own free source material that they wrote and created, even published on Greyhawk Online. They can then, if Wizards ever opens, or when Wizards ever opens Greyhawk on DMs Guild, they can take their own free content and incorporate that same material into commercial material, because they own it and they can do that. The Creative Commons license and stuff only applies to other people using their work.
Yeah, exactly.
With their own material, they can always do whatever they want.
Yep.
Let's see. Gosh, there's actually
man.
Chat
Oh.
now.
We need to get Bavix for GaryCon.
Oh yes, exactly. That's awesome. Now we need to.
Wow, but we
yep.
need to.
Yep. Oh, that's a great question, Master Cycle. That's an awesome. So yeah, Mike, please you start. The question was for you first.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a big question.
Yep.
A period of Greyhawk history. Here lately, I've enjoyed going back to the old box set. I like 576. I like everything before it got blew up by the Greyhawk Wars. Not that the Greyhawk Wars wouldn't happen. I just think that a lot of it was still kind of pristine in that era. You know, all the dungeons were kind of new. A lot of the political alignments were still like on edge there. After the Greyhawk Wars, then it kind of gets stirred up a bit. You know, you throw the Scarlet Brotherhood into there, and Ayuz takes over half the map. Wasn't really to my liking. So,
how about you, Anna? Do you have a favorite?
Well, since I got into I played Greyhawk for so many years, and then we kind of played a parallel through the Greyhawk Wars and stuff, because then I had a fairly steady gaming group and stuff. So we played through the Carl Sargent from the Ashes, and I used the Marklands and stuff like that. I used the Evil and so on. So we played through not any of the particular adventures that was made, but I kind of made adventures surrounding all the source books for years. And then when
early on, I did a lot of retrofitting. When that stuff would come out, I would always try to retrofit my own timeline to fit it, because I was always ahead.
I was kind of always a few years behind catching up, and then the Living Greyhawk campaign came out, but then I didn't game that much, so to speak. So I read through it, took it in, and then I restarted my adventuring again and running campaigns, and then I realized, what the heck, now I have all this information and I want to do the maps and involve of it. So I started setting my own adventures a few years after the Living Greyhawk campaign have ended, and I kind of took it as de facto most of what happened in the Living Greyhawk campaign had happened, and then I started again. But now I'm in that point again where I can actually now I don't have a history, I don't have a gaming group that have gamed and reached this point that we continue with. Now when I start running a campaign again, it will be a fresh start next time. So now I have actually a time, I can pick any time I want to, but now I still feel like I want to kind of honor what happened in my version of Greyhawk and kind of keep it. And now I also have a lot of cool ideas where I can put things in the future, so to speak, and do so. I will probably stay with 598, and it will be winter towards 599. That's where I stopped last time. So I will probably just keep that and go on. I think that's the kind of the really just stay with it and develop. And I have some really cool ideas and now I'm in the good spot. I'm so busy with doing other things that I don't really work much with Greyhawk, unfortunately. I'm only doing a few projects, but I'll talk about them at the end of the show here. But what I do is while I'm sitting mapping other stuff, Midgard and doing things, I'm getting really like I want to game again. I want to get into it. So now I'm actually writing down plot stuff and a whole bunch of cool ideas I want to do for my own campaigns and gaming and for like this fall and next year. So yeah, that's so I'm but I will probably stay with the year and just move on. Yeah.
So I want to answer
Yeah.
the question, and then I kind of want to touch on something from Con that's along those same lines. So I tend to be very inclusive. Like I'm probably one of the few people that really loved the Greyhawk Wars. The very first Greyhawk book I ever had was the Greyhawk hardcover, and so I didn't really quote unquote know a lot about the lore behind Greyhawk and whatnot. From like the City of Greyhawk box set or the World of Greyhawk box set. I didn't get those until after. So the very next thing that I saw after the hardback, I believe it was this order. Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I got the Greyhawk Wars box set and loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I had actually played the Five Shall Be One before. And so when I found out that the two were related, I thought it was incredibly awesome. I just absolutely adored the Greyhawk Wars. And so I include the Greyhawk Wars and I include Living Greyhawk. There's one thing they did in Greyhawk where some group of the authors, and I forget which region, thought it would really be cool to have an alien invasion, which I thought was kind of weird, but I get it. Sci-fi, I don't have any problem with mixing my chocolate with peanut butter. I love the Barrier Peaks. I love sci-fi and everything, but the way they did the alien invasion was just weird. But at any rate, so I include Living Greyhawk stuff, and largely because even though I love writing and I write for myself relatively prolifically, and I have my own home campaign that I write stuff for, I'm not really great at big overarching storylines that, national storylines and big world storylines and stuff like that. And so if I leave things on my own, it doesn't really change all that much. It's just, small adventures all over the world that don't really change anything and nothing happens with the world. And so I like seeing, when they write something, I like seeing new and interesting things, and I incorporate them, and it gives me new ideas, and it's more interesting and stuff like that. And so I still actually kind of hold to the Living Greyhawk timetable, where a year in the game is a year in real life. When I'm in the middle of a campaign and 1 week of gaming is only 1 day in the game, it's kind of hard to keep up that schedule. But like when I change games or when something changes or whatever, I tend to start them like my most recent game started in 609. That's where I'm at. So I tend to be very, very inclusive, and just, just about anything can end up in my game from at any time period. But the thing I like to go do is occasionally go back and rerun old ones. Like right now I'm running the Age of Worms, which was from about 2005 in the Paizo Hawk era when it was in Dungeon Magazine. And all the stuff from there is now in my campaign, and I'm running it in 5th edition. Along those lines, I kind of want to talk about some of the stuff that we found out at GaryCon when I got to talk to Mike Mearls. And I think there would be some of our viewers who would really probably be interested in that. Mike and Anna and I were at one panel in particular with Mike, I had the opportunity to ask a question, and I really had stewed on the question for a couple of days, and I wanted to find a way to ask it. And basically, like, what I ended up asking Mike was that whether Wizards was going to continue the pattern they're on now of opening more world settings. And his response was that absolutely they are not going to stop opening new settings. And the only trick of it really is that they want to find a format or a model or a product that works for each world in order to open it up, you know. And for like Ravenloft, it was a big thing. For Ravnica, it was just a
they had a couple. He
I'm sorry,
mentioned
Eberron was a PDF.
Yeah, he mentioned a couple of different ways they could tackle a world, so to speak. One was to make it a new home setting for people to use as their new hub of adventuring, so to speak. And some of them were what they call destination worlds, something a cool place you went to for adventure or two and stuff like that. So and there were a couple of other versions that they mentioned. So that and the way you asked the question was awesome, because you can really you told that Mike Mearls, he loved to answer it, and we got a lot of interesting views.
I kind of let him answer it because I made it.
We didn't get a final version of a final told whether it was going to be a destination, meaning something that just go for on vacation, so to speak, or if the characters
specify what they
exactly.
Were doing. And actually, So the reason I wanted to bring it up is because the timeline question got brought up. And I had the opportunity, I want to say it was Saturday at Gen Con after dinner. I was actually having dinner with, or maybe it was Sunday at dinner. Anyway, I was in the restaurant having dinner with a couple of other friends, and there were like 3 or 4 of us sitting around the table. And Mike happened to be at the next table over. And it started out because I'd forgotten that I had already gotten Mike's autograph. And so I started to go over and ask him for his autograph, and he and I pulled out I was getting digital autographs. I thought it was really cool. I was getting them on my iPad, but so I just started chatting with him, and I got him to open up a little bit more because it was in a much less formal setting. And I asked him, you know, a whole lot about Greyhawk and what his ideas would be. And the key is that Mike is not the guy who would do that content. Mike is not the guy who would be in charge of the setting or anything else, but because he's one of the, you know, important directors at Greyhawk or at Wizards, he's obviously going to have a lot of impact because he is such a Greyhawk fan. So the thing of it is like when I asked him what he would want to do, I said there's a lot of fans right now that are concerned that if they relaunch Greyhawk, there's a lot of people out there that are saying it only needs to be 576, and there's a lot of people that have said, look, I played Greyhawk for the entire Living Greyhawk campaign, and you know, if you don't at least put it in 598, you're going to invalidate everything I ever played in Greyhawk, you know. And so there's a lot of people who are really concerned if they say, well, the official year is 598, then the 576ers are going to say, you know, well, what about us? We don't want to play in that stupid era, you know. And then if you do it the other way, the 598ers are going to hate it. And then there's the 571 folks and the 591 folks and everything else. And so what Mike said was that what he wants to do is basically take it back to like the folio. And he wants to, and not by year, but he wants to take it back to the folio by like content design. And very much like if you played in 3rd edition, the D&D Gazetteer was basically just like the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, only the light version. And like basically he doesn't want to take it to a timeline. He wants to take it to a content level. And he wants to present essentially like a folio edition or like a small sized book that contains all of the base knowledge that someone needs to run the world of Greyhawk, and not necessarily give it a firm timeline. I mean, it would kind of default back to like
that sounds like a very smart plan. Yeah.
And essentially say none of the timelines are invalid. If you want to play in the Age of Worms timeline, play that. If you want to play in during the Greyhawk Wars, fantastic. If you want to play in 599 or 609, all of the timelines are valid and nobody's Greyhawk is wrong. And that's why it really resonated with me, because at Greyhawk Online, we always say it doesn't matter if it's first edition, second edition, third, fourth, or fifth. We don't care what year you want to set it in. I actually was telling an author just earlier today, they said they were going to write an article, and the NPC who is in charge of the Night Watch, or the he was a watch captain or watch general or whatever, had changed from one era to the other. And I said, write whichever one you like, because that's what you know best and that's what you enjoy writing, and neither one of them are wrong. So we're going to publish any timeline, you know. And if somebody writes something in first edition for side 576, you know, I mean, Lord Gasumba is you know, all of his stuff is all, you know, is all first edition and all early stuff, you know. You know, and we're going to publish if somebody comes along and wants to publish something that's set in 625 common year, fantastic. And so that's kind of what Mike said his personal impression were. Granted, he may not get to guide that for Greyhawk, but that's what he wanted to do for Greyhawk, is to open it up so that
really
everybody can play again and not validate any of the timeline.
Yep, that sounds great.
You know, I'd like to answer something on that Mystery Cycle mentioned about it's best to stick with the timeline as it is, like they've done with the Forgotten Realms. Now, I'm not a Realms expert per se. I had the gray box set, you know, when it first came out.
Me too.
And a little bit.
That's about
so it. Did I.
I like casually would follow all the realm shaking events that happened through the editions. And then when you come to today, I have played in a lot of the Forgotten Realms stuff that's come out, because that's what 5th edition core stuff is, more or less. And I've played things like the shoot, what's that board game called? Lords of Waterdeep. Love that board game. Right. Now, if you ask me what the difference is between 1st edition Forgotten Realms and 5th edition Forgotten Realms, I couldn't tell you the difference, because it seems like it's been static.
It's hard to know.
I don't know how they did it, but it seems real static. All the same characters are there, all the same countries, you know, and organizations, the Harpers and all that. It's like stuck in time. I mean, clearly there's a timeline that went on there. Novels and all this stuff happened, and they say time has passed. But when I just like look at the basics, the iconic stuff, the maps, it looks like it has gone unchanged.
Yeah, very much. The geography is not very different.
Well, they didn't have an arch budget to make new maps, so they just used the old ones. Yeah. And
I wonder if, you know, if you're looking for this like overarching Greyhawk timeline, you want to like include everything, then you almost have to take Greyhawk back to where it was at before, so you're making both people happy. You know, the completists and the new people.
Yeah, it sounds like a great plan. If they can stick to that, I think that will be a wonderful relaunch of Greyhawk. Yep.
I don't know.
Well, and I think that's largely why, like I mean, like Aldraco was pointing out, like the 576ers can still use like all the really old stuff. And like Lord Gasumba, like when new things come out, he kind of picks and chooses, you know, he'll take an NPC here and there or whatever. But like I think like I personally, like I said a little while ago, I'm a 609 guy, just because I don't want to have to retcon stuff, but I'm lazy is basically the only reason why. But like I think that's why Mike's approach is so elegant, that like you don't have to have a core book that's this thick if you say basically like all the timelines are available. And the reason I think that best suits the community is then like because we're essentially, we're not talking about what Wizards is going to publish here. We're talking about the DM's Guild.
Oh well, yeah.
Because when Wizards publishes that book and opens it, it's opening it for the DM's Guild, and that's the important part, because then all of those authors that are out there, like Greyhawk Grognard, Joe has already got, you know, stuff ready to go, you know, and I mean, like I've already started a little bit of work on a manuscript for something that I want to write for the DM's Guild when it eventually opens up. And so the big deal is that that the key is that all of those fans who are going to start writing professionally on the DMs Guild, they need to have the ability to set it whenever they want. And so if they want to say this is a 576 product, that it still is able to fit in with the core stuff. And now, granted, there are some things that have changed, like the Horn Society and stuff like that, and some, you know, I think didn't DeRuyter Fanchon or something retire, and you know, some of the counts of the Circle of Eight has changed. And
Right.
the grief, when Gary originally, you know, somebody pointed this out on Twitter not too long ago, and I think actually it was Mike Merles, but do y'all realize when Gary wrote Greyhawk, the Circle of Eight wasn't there. Like, it did not exist, you know, and we think of the Circle of Eight now as so integral to what Greyhawk is. Gary didn't originally write the Circle of Eight. He wrote the Citadel of Eight.
Right.
And, you know, and it was very different because it had warriors and it had everything else. And now we think of the 8 big archmages. That is definitely an era thing. You know, somebody playing in 571 or 576 isn't going to have the Circle of Eight, you know, and so those DMs Guild authors need the ability to do that. You know, they need to be able to write stuff that is kind of timeline neutral without having someone say, "Oh, that's not real Greyhawk because it's not actually set in the current timeline." You know, that's as a community, I think that's the biggest thing that we need to avoid is people saying your stuff is invalid because it doesn't match my stuff.
I definitely, that's why I like old, because it's so out of the way. It's not only timeline neutral, it, you know, I can make it rules neutral
They
or
don't
whatever.
care about the rest. They
Yeah.
just go on with their stubborn ways of
Just
doing
goes
things.
on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Pluffett Smedger there that said, F that, I'll take a 2-inch thick gazetteer.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's, but I mean, trust me, if they
Yeah.
wrote 2-inch thick guarantee.
Oh, I would love it. I would
most of-
read it and
you know,
love it.
but-
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, you know, Casey, Aldraco, from what I understand, the way that it works is that, like when Ravnica opened up, Ravnica, I don't know how it impacts the other worlds of that realm. So in Arth, Urth, Yarth, and Earth, like I don't know how. I mean, it would certainly open up. It would certainly open up gray space. But because like Gary actually also wrote on Aerith and Yarth or whatever, I think after he left the company, I don't know what that opens up as far as Gord goes. Which I'm sure it obviously probably wouldn't open up some of, you know, anything that belonged to Gary and the Gygax estate. But it would certainly open up a lot of aspects. Like it would open up all of Western Orc, which is where I want to write because I really like the Western stuff that uses like some of the Black Moon Chronicles nations and the chainmail nations of the Sundered Empire and stuff. I really love that, and it would also open up gray space. So just if they opened up quote unquote Greyhawk itself, it would open up some things, but I don't think it would open up the world of Gord.
Oh, wow. That's asking too much.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, but still. Oh, now I get what he said. He said, and sometimes Yorth, because A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y.
Yeah. You know, Bavix mentions Greg Reborn. Yeah, you put Greyhawk out there and you're going to get so much deferring content. It wouldn't be funny.
Bavix, I would honestly say, like, if and when Wizards eventually gets around to opening the DMs Guild, and like I said, Mike didn't put a time frame on this, but like, I mean, he very strongly implied that they were going to try and do like at least one a year, you know, and I mean, they're going to very quickly run out of, you know, I mean, they're not going to do Spelljammer because there's too much Spelljammer stuff already out there, you know, that's considered quote unquote core. You know, they've already said they've already put Sigil in, you know, and they're not going to go do a whole setting for Sigil, you know. I don't think you know, but some of those things are already in. So I mean, there's
No,
like
but
some places that I don't think are going to come open as settings
Oh, but
because they're
Planescape
already.
is such a cool place that
They got
Well,
an
yeah.
announcement thing coming up in May, and
Yeah.
it's.
I mean, this is my own speculation.
Okay.
Because pretty much implied that Planescape is already core. You know, because like most all races, even they've already mentioned Sigil like in the player's handbook.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, and stuff.
But
and
Greyhawk is mentioned in the player's handbook too.
Well, I'm just saying. Personal speculation.
Until it says Planescape at the top of a book, I don't think it's fair game yet.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
well, no, you couldn't use the word Planescape. You know, but I'm just saying I don't think those are going to be the first choices that they go with for setting. You know, choices.
Yeah. We'll see.
I think they're more likely to do Dark Sun, Greyhawk. I even think they're like more likely to do Birthright before they are Planescape. But
I disagree.
Yeah, exactly. I disagree too.
Mordenkainen's,
I mean, again,
that Mordenkainen's book all sets up Planescape. And all the Blood War and all that, it sets it all up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point that I'm making is that the Blood War is already in Mordenkainen's.
No, but what I'm but I tend to I think you're onto something, Mike, because I think that Planescape has one important thing, meaning it will be a hub setting, so to speak. It will be a way to transfer between other, and you can connect to other settings and stuff.
You're absolutely right. I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
So that might be why it's kind of really cool to have to build. It's a platform part of the setting.
I would say that I agree. As a player, I would absolutely agree with y'all. That would make far more sense than anything else. From a business point of view, I don't think they would be putting that much content out that is so Planescape specific, unless they were already going to have done it. Like with Mordenkainen's. Like if they put all of the Blood War in Mordenkainen's, what are they going to put in Planescape then? You know, and if they, you know, but anyway, that's where I'm going on down a little rabbit trail there, but
it's cool.
So what Bavik said that I was starting to address a second ago was they are going to keep doing these settings, you know, and so even if it's next year or the year after, if they do Dark Sun and if they do, you know, whatever other setting, and it's a year or 2 or 3 or whatever before they get to Greyhawk, I think it would be about one of the coolest things in the world. Like kind of right now, like they say, you know, in the player's handbook, here's the Forgotten Realms, here's Eberron, here's Greyhawk, here's Forgotten Realms, you know, and they named several settings. If they did that kind of thing with the timelines of Greyhawk and said, here are some eras that you can play in Greyhawk, and they actually kind of name-checked Greyhawk Reborn by saying, you could even play in 618, you know, I think that would be about one of the coolest things in the world that Wizards could ever do, you know, by just, and not even saying Greyhawk Reborn or whatever, but just acknowledging kind of a tip of the hat to the fan community and saying, you know, there are even some people who play in 618, and that's a great timeline too. You know, I think that would be a really, really cool thing for them to just tip their hat to the fans. Gosh, there is so much conversation actually happening.
Oh yeah, no, it's kind of Gary has some interesting thing that Greyhawk 998 magic has faded and monsters died out. That's an interesting recurring phenomena that magic used to be this enormous powerful thing, and then it's kind of faded out and stuff. And I saw some interesting articles. I forgot where I read them, but there was some. I think it was on Ian World. They had one that wrote about where magic was in the development of the world and stuff like that. That was really interesting.
Along those lines, just a little pop culture thrown in. There's a new show on called The Discovery of Witches. Have you heard of that or seen it? It's a brand new series that there's only, I think, 2 episodes out of.
On where can you see it?
We watch it on
TV
demand?
channel somewhere.
So I can't remember. We watch it through Xfinity, so I don't know which station it's on, but I believe it's on broadcast, and then we can watch it on demand. But so the big deal about it is it's a magical creatures. There's vampires and witches and demons or whatever, but they're all like hidden in the world, you know, and they, you know, some of us think they look normal and we can't tell that they're witches or whatever. But anyway, that magic has left the world and technology has counterbalanced it. That, you know, sort of thing like is in the future of Greyhawk. They use that concept, and that's like an integral part of the show. That why there's so little magic left in the world is because it's slowly fading away, and they have a marvelous way of giving like scientific, you know, in universe, you know, in the show, they actually give scientific evidence of how and why magic has disappeared, and they can track it and tell, and they know how much magic there used to be in the world in, you know, like 200 years ago or like 500 years ago, and they can tell exactly how much magic is in the world now, and you know, and stuff like that. And it's a fascinating show and a really, really great drama. If you like fantasy drama kind of thing, watch A Discovery of Witches, and watch The Magicians while you're at it if you haven't seen that on TV.
That's cool.
So let's see. So
to answer the Gary stuff in the chat about the source for that, it's the glossography in the box set written by Steve Winter, talking about the Seven Sages book being found by the University of Realmord, and then, you know, adapted by Pluford Smedger and Realmord in 998 CY. The twist here about, you know, magic being faded is they found, Pluford Smedger's people found the story in this in the Rift Canyon, and it says it was found in the lair of a illithid. So
wait, it was found what?
Mind flare. It was found in the lair of a mind flare.
Oh, it's found in the lair. Oh.
So apparently,
I'm sorry, Mike. I thought you said. I'm sorry. I thought you said an Layer, not an Lair. A layer, like you had cut apart an illithid, and you found it inside the layer of the layer.
No. So yeah, so this was found in the layer of a mind flare, psionics, at an age when magic was faded. Evidently not psionics.
Actually, while we're talking about stuff, I just noticed there was a comment I missed that was about 8 minutes ago from Pluford Smedger, Gary. He said you would think the way the DMs Guild might work is that authors' work would recognize each other formally or informally into kinds of shared grayverses. Actually, that is the way that it works, Gary, because one of the things about the DMs Guild is that when you put something on the DMs Guild, you have to acknowledge that other authors can use it. And I know that Wizards uses that as kind of a testing strip, kind of, you know, like a way to see what's popular. And if another author starts using it, and technically, like it says in their things that they encourage authors to acknowledge each other, you know, and actually credit them in their source credits and stuff like that. Although they don't technically have to, but, you know, when, you know, Wizards encourages it, and it would really make a big stink if somebody didn't, you know. So I think it will mostly happen, but that's absolutely what it's supposed to do, is that, like, if somebody writes a really cool product, you can then incorporate that into your product as well and use that as a basis and spin off a whole nother thing. And so when Wizards sees that happening and says, hey, this book is so popular and it sold 3,000 issues and this other author's even using it, maybe we ought to consider buying that, you know, and using it ourselves. So yeah, that is absolutely the way it's supposed to go. So, but anyway, back to magic. Sorry.
No, but that's a great
really,
comment. Yep.
I haven't ever read The Magic Goes Away by Larry Niven. That I'm kind of curious about that now.
All right.
That's a good point. Maybe not all of the monsters in Magic is gone in 998. Maybe it might just people don't know how to do it anymore. It's still there or something. Maybe
the other thing that really stands out to me on that little blurb is they say a mind flayer's lair in the Rift Canyon. Well, that's the only reference I even know of that those creatures are in the canyon. You know,
Yeah. Hmm.
you ask me what's in the Rift Canyon, that'll be like the 100th thing I say.
Yeah,
But apparently
right.
in 998, maybe they rule.
It might
Well, you
be.
know, like
Yeah.
a question is, the first thing is, how did they know it was an Illithid's lair, and how, you know, and was the Illithid still there, or was it an archaeological find?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Exactly. It might be that they have been there a long time ago. Yep.
Yeah. And but if it is an archaeological find, how did they know what an Illithid was to know that that was what lived in that
Yeah.
lair?
Hmm.
Yeah, and 998 away from 598, let's say 400 years. Is that really long enough for the variety of monsters
That's
and
not even
magic to
half the
go
lifetime of a dragon. So
out of memory?
yeah. I mean, it's only half the lifetime of a dragon. It's not even the
Right.
lifetime of an elf. So to me, it sounds like, yeah, that's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yeah, kind of.
Um, Gary, to
Unless
answer.
there's, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go on.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Unless there's what?
No, I was to say, because the unless there's like enormous turmoil and you have like cataclysms and stuff like that, that
Aside
can
from
they can just wipe them out, so to speak. But if they die out naturally from natural causes, then it should be a long time before you get rid of long-lived monsters.
I like how mystery cycle things.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God. You know, okay. All right. I'm going to say this. Okay. I'm going to say two things. One, I'm going to say real quick, I'm going to address Pluffett Smedger's question there.
Yep.
And then we're getting down to the last few minutes of the show here. And, I want to offer challenge, and I'm going to put a suggestion here. So, Pluffett Smedger, in answer to your question, can DM's Guild participants formally organize and make like a GKAM compatible guide? Not sure what GKAM is, but
It's Gary,
Now you
Christoph, and
see.
Mike. Yeah, look down in chat and you will see what it is.
oh, got it. But so, now, yeah, 2 lines later, I see Gary, Christoph on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they absolutely can. And so, like, if Gary, Christoph, Anna, and Mike wanted to get together and say, hey, I'm going to do all of the artwork for an adventure that Mike is going to write, and Gary is going to do all the setting information for, and the cartography is going to be all done by Anna. And we all published like 4 separate books, but we also worked on the books together, or any combination of that, however somebody wanted to work it. Like if somebody said, I'm going to do a monster guide, I'm going to do a world setting, I'm going to do a whatever. Yes, they absolutely can. And if they wanted to, they could put on the cover or on the inside credits or whatever, you know, this works with so and so's.
You can create a logo for it, or even or something like
yeah,
that.
they could essentially, like, they could work together and
Yeah.
publish 4 separate books together, you know, and say, and put right on the cover, you know, like you know, whatever, you know, like the GKAM guide to Greyhawk,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they could put that on the title bar of all 4 different books, you know. They absolutely can do that.
Cool.
And if somebody, if we made a GKAM book, other authors wouldn't be allowed to use the GKAM. They could use any of our content that we put on the DM's Guild. Other authors could go ahead and then say, hey, this is, you know, GKAM is a really great stuff they write, so we're going to use that and base our stuff on it. They couldn't use our logos or our art without our permission, because unless we put our own art on the DM's Guild separately, they could use those resources, but they couldn't pull the logos or anything like that from our books. But they could make spin-off content from our books. So yeah, that's a Guntaka, you're touching on my favorite subject there, chainmail area. I love the Sundered Empire. Or yeah, Pluffett, that's a really great point. If it were compatible with our Draco's Bandit Kingdom setting, yes, absolutely. That is a fantastic thing. Yeah. So now on that topic, the second thing I want to say, I would love. Like, did you notice what we were doing just a few minutes ago? that like when we started talking about magic and Mike brought it up the Illithid and the 998 stuff and stuff, the very first thing that happened, not only to us, the three of us, but started happening in the chat, is that everybody started coming up with, oh, here's this tidbit, and oh, and this is how it happened,
Yep.
and this is something else that came up, and ooh, what if it was, you know, how do they know if it's archaeological, or how did they find it? How did they know what an
Yeah.
Illithid was? Maybe it was, you know, found this way, or how did they not know it was magic? And that kind of cooperative storytelling, the game we play is based entirely on cooperative storytelling, and it's not about the dice, it's not about the numbers, it's not even really about the role playing. It's about cooperative storytelling because we all get to participate together, and we use dice to make more interesting results sometimes than just choosing what we do. And we make our characters more interesting by randomizing the dice for things. But we all engage in cooperative storytelling. The DM tells them something that happens, and then they respond to it, and then the DM responds in turn to what they're doing. And so, what we're doing right there, essentially, with that brief conversation we were having, is we were participating in cooperative storytelling. And the thing, honestly, now because that just happened with the three of us, and especially with Gary's and the others in the chat, I would like to see more of that, because that is what Greyhawk Online is all about. It is about creating and sharing for the world of Greyhawk. Because if you're, those two things can't be separated. Because if you're creating for the world of Greyhawk and nobody ever sees it, it does no good for anybody. Because if you don't even share it with anybody, like at your home game or anything, nobody ever sees it. You have to share what you create, or you don't get any satisfaction from it in the same sense that sharing would. And if you share a whole bunch of stuff that hasn't, you know, isn't new creation, if you look at the same book for, and trust me, we all are going to have very strong feelings about this, but if you look at the same book for 25 years and don't look at anything new, it doesn't do anything any good for you either, because then it stagnates and nobody enjoys it, you know. And unfortunately, that's kind of what we've all been looking at for, you know, quite a few years now, is not a lot of, you know, new Greyhawk stuff, unless you're looking at Dragon Magazine or Living Greyhawk or whatever. And so those two things, that's why I chose that phrase as the mission statement and the tagline at the top of Greyhawk Online, is creating and sharing for the world of Greyhawk. And so what I would really like to see happen, because of what we just did there, is like everybody watching tonight, everybody who's going to see this later on demand on Twitch, and even later than that, permanently uploaded to YouTube. Everybody that sees this video, everybody that's watching tonight, and even the three of us sitting here, I want to create with you guys. And honestly, I would love it. Pluffet Smedger said it there, at GKAM Adventure. I would love to do art and writing and editing for anything any of you guys would publish. And not necessarily on the DM's Guild or anything, but like, even if y'all want Greyhawk Online to come up with just a free fan book, you know, that's, you know, like the episode or the edition of the Earth Journal we came out with for GaryCon. For those who don't know, when you go to greyhawkonline.com/Earth Journal, when you download it, there's some of my artwork that's actually in the magazine, in addition to the contributions of the other artists. But I would love if any of you, anybody watching this, anybody in chat, and any of those who are you know, the two of you actually in the conference with me right now, if any of you want to publish any kind of stuff, I will do art for it. And I'm going to say that across the board unequivocally, because I want to share and create the world of Greyhawk. And I'm not talking about I'm just going to do art and we'll talk about it for a long time. Like Gary, we've talked about doing a source book or a something for the races of Greyhawk ever since 2007, when you very first saw my artwork and you showed me, Gary Holian showed me how to alter the size of a JPEG because my scan was 3,000 pixels wide, and you showed me how to resize a JPEG. And now I am a professional freelance artist doing digital artwork in the gaming industry.
Good job.
But we've talked about doing the Races of Earth project for 12 years now. And if you would write it, I will do art with you. And Anna, if you ever consider all the stuff you write for your home game and stuff,
Oh yeah,
you're an amazing author. You're not just a cartographer.
No, but there should be, and I'm going to take a few minutes at the end of the show and talk a little bit what I'm up to, and that will tie into some of that.
And Mike,
yep.
like, you blog all the time, and you are such a good writer that, like, if you ever just wrote a story, I would do art for it. But so I'm going to throw that out there, that I enjoyed that exchange we had about magic in 998 and the Illithids and the way the glossography was found. I enjoyed that so much, and that is what Greyhawk Online is about for me, is creating and sharing. So please, anybody that wants to contact me or contact Greyhawk Online, we have editors that will work with you and stuff like that. So absolutely.
GreyhawkOnline.com.
Yep, greyhawkonline.com. And like I said, the Earth Journal is due to come out in about a month. So there are still lots of room in the next Earth Journal. Anybody that even tweet at me right now at Greyhawk Online. If you have like a one-line plot hook, we're putting together an article that's just a whole bunch of plot hooks, just fun little one-liners or one paragraphers or whatever. You don't even have to write a whole article. Just tweet at me. 260 characters less. If you're interested in doing art or editing or anything, it's admin@greyhawkonline.com, or just go to the website. There's a link there, and get in touch with us. We would love to see anything you would love to write, draw, or I almost forgot. Bards of Greyhawk. Bards of Greyhawk is working with Greyhawk Online for the Earth Journal. They are not only going to submit some original stuff from their home campaign kind of thing for an NPC or 3. They're actually going to do like an interview for the Earth Journal as well. So even the bards are going to get some stuff in the Earth Journal.
Great.
So it comes out next month. It's the 24th anniversary, and everybody go to greyhawkonline.com/Earth Journal and download it in about 6 weeks.
Awesome.
What you got, Anna?
Well, yeah. Now we have 2 minutes. Well, we can probably go over a couple of minutes. Yeah. So it's time to me to talk a little bit about most of what I do right now. I'm stuck in not Greyhawk, unfortunately. I'm stuck in Midgard for the moment. So I've been stuck in Midgard for about 2 months now, and I'm like really working really hard on that. And I have another one that I'm doing for Gryffindor games. So those are the two projects that I put in like 90% of my time. But I do have one Greyhawk project that I'm working on at the moment, and that is to split up. Remember, originally my map was made into these small little squares. That was the Atlas of the Flanese, the traditional ones. I'm remaking them. I think we talked about it a little bit last episode, so I'm not going to go into too much. But the new ones will look like this, and they will be 11 by 17 inches. And there will be 70 of them. A series of 70. Let's show I'm going to show this little image here. Will be this is what the layout will be, 70, and I've done probably about 30 or so now. So I've done half of them. So yeah. So and they come in JPEG and PDF form. So that's what I'm doing.
Prolific.
Yeah, at the moment. So I'm doing one a day at least of these, and when you zoom in, they have it's the title at the top. So these are 11 by 17 inches, so they're easily printable on your inkjet printer, so to speak. So you get an 11 by 17 sheet of nice photo paper, and you can print it. or you can go to your Staples or something like that and get it printed. And then there is a little bit of a mini map down at the left, and there is a 1/2 inch on each side that is the overlap between each of them. So at the bottom here, the next one starts roughly here. So I've edited on the sides, and I've redone a few of the names and stuff, so they will actually show up on several of the maps. And then there's
a good overlap.
Yeah, so there's my little logo, and here is so I can get compliant with the fan creation rules. So that's the text you have to put in there to get it, and it's the Creative Commons license, and this shows that it's the 2019 edition they're based on. And there is also a scale, and then you have the actual pages, what pages goes in which direction to actually, so you can know that 2021 and so on. So that's basically the function of this. So it's a way of easily digest it, put it into, there will be a PDF, you can read it on your iPad and even on your phone and stuff. So instead of having that huge map, so that's been something that's been requested for basically the past 8 years since I put it all together. People have talk to me, oh, please put it in separate small ones and small digestible chunks. So that's what I'm working on right now. So that will probably go on for probably mid-May or so. Then my patrons will have this. And then this summer, they will all be available with the title page, the legend, and a back page and stuff in a whole bunch of PDFs. So it will be like a 74 page PDF or something like that you can print if you want to, or you can just use them at separate JPEG and PDF. So that's what I'm working on at the moment to get that done. And then I have not so much else to show, so I can go back here. But what I'm working on and what I'm really looking forward to is that I will take the whole fall, because now my patrons are so giving so much to me that they basically giving me the opportunity to work half time on this. And I'm not doing like half time each day, because I was so tied up with commercial commissions that was decided a year or 2 years ago. So that was, I couldn't really change it, because I didn't know that I will have patrons giving me this much. So what I've done is that I basically blocked off from July the rest of the year. That will be just working on Greyhawk, and I have a whole bunch of cool stuff. And what Hepmona Land I've talked about before, this 576 version of the map, and Lendor Isles. Lendor Isles is actually making good progress, so to speak. I'm very soon ready to texture it. But I will probably not touch that until July. But there will be, hopefully I can have the first kind of cool textures and stuff roughly around Gen Con to look at, and I will make use of some new cool tools like Gaia and stuff that is going to probably make it, and it will be by far my best map ever, because it's the most technically advanced, and it's so far it's looking fantastic. So Lendor Isles will start trickle out during fall, and the same thing with Hepmona Land. We'll have installments done, and I hope to have them both done by Christmas. Same thing with the 576. But then I have some other cool things that because now I have a lot of time to sit and think, because I don't have to sit and write stuff. I just sit and do a lot of Photoshop work and World Machine and whatnot. So I have a lot of time to get. I want to run games again, and so what I'm doing, that will be also a Patreon project first, is to bring up my own campaign stuff to speed, so to speak. And the first thing that will go into it, that will also come this summer, that will be a detailed look at the Empire of Ayus. I made a lot of sketches and stuff on my take on the Empire of Ayus. So my campaign map will come out with a beefy, hefty update early this fall. And it will be hundreds of new place names, and it will be a hell of a lot of new cool heraldry and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, there will be plenty of stuff that I've written in that will tie into my future campaign. And I will offer up slots in the campaign. I'm not set exactly when it's going to start yet. Might be late this year, early next year. And I want to give like 6-7 players or something like that the chance. And my patrons will get the first chance, plus a couple of people that I'm going to see if I can get them on the game as well. And they will start out as 0 levels. They will start out not even having a class.
Oh, wow.
because the thing is not about being a min-maxer in my campaign. It's about living in the campaign of Greyhawk, and we will in the world of Greyhawk. So that will be the center of it. So it will be more people want to experience my version of Greyhawk, so to speak. That will be that will be the kind of the take on it. And it will start in Shieldlands. That used to be the part of Shieldlands in let me show the where it will be centered on, so to speak.
Critwall.
Close to Critwall. It will actually be centered around the or near the town of Axport, and in this area here near Axport and stuff. So this is now the official version. My version of campaign version of the map has way more detail here, and I will detail it even more. So this will be the area where the campaign will be set. And exactly. It will be set in the winter between 598 599. So the this is like 5-6 years after the war, and the thing have kind of both cooled down, but there are new things brewing, so to speak, in the area. So that will be the so it will be the borderland between the good guys and the bad guys, so to speak. So this is kind of an both interesting political situation and a lot of possibilities. I wanted to have a very open-ended. The campaign can run in any direction, so to speak. So that's the map material for this will be in the hands of my patrons early this fall, and there will be some other cool updates like mile markers and stuff on my campaign map. So that will come. And then I also have a couple of things that are more long-term things that I'm working on, and one of them is to have a kind of a campaign simulation based on the ultimate campaign rules for Pathfinder that I'm going to work. So I'm going to put that in Realmworks and start experimenting with it. And one of the goals with this is that I want to set up the framework, and that's something I want to talk to Alan about a bit, because we have made metadata and stuff will tie into it, and I want to see if we can make a sort of scheme on what metadata to use. And that will be tying into a product that I'm working on really long term, that is just on the concept stage, because next year will be when I'm really going to start looking into game engines. And one of the things that I want to do with the game engine is that I just don't want it to have maps. I want it to be a kind of a keep track of your realm, so to speak, keep track of the big picture, not the character management, not the campaign management, but the actual tie it into that, so to speak. So I'm doing a little bit of experimentation that will be part of my next campaign, just to see what should be in there, and also have some ideas of what I want to do in the future. So that's the some of the ideas that I'm working on, apart from learning Gaia and moving into using GIS software and modern 3D tools. And then later this fall, I will when Lindor Isles are starting to wind down, and now starting to get that done, I will start moving into Ratik or however you pronounce it. That will be the first kind of onshore part of the Flanies that I will do. And now the technology is really coming in place, and I'm getting fairly skilled now and starting to know what I'm doing compared to some years ago. So I'm starting to have the tools to actually do it, and setting up the standards for a project. So it's going to be interesting. And if I have 205 patrons. If I have 250 by Christmas, then I'm reaching the goal. So I hope that I will have. Now it's I'm so sorry to my patrons. I have to say that again, because now I don't have much time to put on it. But that's going to change this fall, because this fall it will be all stuff like that, and then it will come out it will be a glut for the my patrons this fall, and then it will come out this winter for everybody. So it will start trickling out this fall to everybody. So yeah. So that's so there's a whole bunch of stuff in concept in the early stages, and then the atlas is coming out a little bit every day. And my patrons, they get every page as soon as I do it. They get it. So yeah. So that was it. Now I've been babbling for 10 minutes past the time.
It's a lot to unload.
Yep. So okay. So any last? Now we need to look at. I haven't looked at chat and stuff. Do we have any more kind of?
I'd like to point out something that
Pluffett Smedger said there, Gary. I don't know if you've ever thought about it or not, but he said we need to do a map overlay of just fading lands and ley lines and vortices and pocket planes.
Hmm.
Maybe that would be a neat layer just to add,
Yep.
where some of the magical sites are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a whole but and also I want others to take my maps and do stuff like that because they have
that's a big thing in Creative Commons.
exactly. They can just download they can even download my Illustrator source file and take that and start doing their own version and putting layers and change things or whatever. Do you create their campaign version of the map and stuff. So that's what the Creative Commons license is about. So yep.
I have to say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of my wrapping up things is that we're going to be off the air for a couple weeks.
Yes.
And then we'll be back on Wednesdays.
Yes, it will be like a month. Yeah, it will be like a month. We will be back on June 5th, Wednesday, June 5th.
Oh, is it June?
Yes.
I thought it was May.
No, June 5th.
June.
That's what. Yeah,
June 5th.
that's
June
what I
5th.
put in.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will be off air a month, and we will be back. And first episode, we have we will have Jay Scott, also known as Lord Gazumba, scheduled for be our guest at the first episode of the third season. And for those of you who doesn't know, you should go into his Twitch channel and stuff. He runs a Twitch channel, and he's run a Greyhawk campaign for over 40 years, and he has a gaming basement that is second to none. And so if you're running games, every gamer wants to have a game setting and a basement like his, like Jay's. It's fantastic. Yeah, so yeah. It's fantastic. So it would be great to have him on, and he can talk a bit about his campaign and his streaming and some of the cool stuff that's happening and so on. So that will come in June, and then we have some other things, and I will have a whole bunch of more stuff in the next season, because that's when I've come much further down during the third season with my Lendor Isles and a whole bunch of other stuff. There will be way more to stuff. And also I can say that I will also start doing that will probably come in June or early July. I will start doing, now I do I've done a Twitch live mapping live stream every 2 weeks, and in between that I've done a special live stream for my top tier patrons. And I will try and continue the doing live stream every 2 weeks, but I will also introduce a Twitch or not a Twitch, but a live stream to my mid-tier patrons and up, my $3 a month tier patrons, where I talk specifically not so much about the technical aspect, but I want to talk about my campaign maps, and I want to talk and discuss a lot more of the contents of the maps and stuff. So it will be a map-centric versions of Legends and Lore, just for my nice. And then I can take the juiciest cool tidbits of and stuff that we come up with on those Patreon shows, and we can kind of talk about them here in Legends and Lore afterwards too, for the next season. So so there's a whole bunch of stuff that going on that way.
I just last thing, I just want to remind people, greyhawkonline.com/earthjournal /seminar will get you all the stuff from GaryCon /greyhawkwiki. The Pluffett Smedger there said that he was kind of bummed that it's going to be on a break. He said this is we'll have to spend the next 6 weeks writing.
Yep.
One of the things is I have absolutely wrangled him and just about pinned him down into finally writing something for me for the Earth Journal. So all our viewers have something to look forward to from Gary Holian in next month. But visit greyhawkonline.com. There's links to the Discord chat, to the Facebook groups. Just look at the title bar. Mike's comments are there. Anna's maps are all there as well. We love working with everybody and stuff. So I want to thank y'all for having me on the show. It's been an absolute joy. I have really, really enjoyed getting to talk to everybody. And I can't believe how fast it flew by. So
Definitely.
Yep.
thank
Yeah.
everybody for watching, and I really enjoyed
Yeah.
talking
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
everybody there as well.
Thank
Want
you
to
so
say
much
hi
for coming.
to Boshi with her raid. Her stream just got over, and ours is just about in too.
Awesome.
Boshi's in my home game group, and
Nice.
I guess I'll see her this weekend.
Awesome.
Yep, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Christopher, for coming on. And I just say that I put my links to my website and my Patreon for those who are more interested in delving deep into my map making. And there will be a lot more posts coming from this summer onwards. And yeah, so thank you so much again for being with us the whole season. A lot of you and awesome comments in chat, and we have so many regulars now. So I hope you will come back again on June 5th, and then we will be on for some
Stay
months
in
to
touch
come.
on our websites.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so thank you so much, and see you soon.
Absolutely.
Later.
Thanks again, guys. Y'all have a great night.